Summer coming tonight, coming out of a war with the weight of the world. I'm coming right to your side. Well, you can do with an ordinary girl. You make my heart stop beating. Oh, babe, my heart stopped beating, but I know it's alright, okay? I know we could be heaven. We could be heaven. After all, we could be heaven. After all.
This is a 2007 Shelby GT500. This car kind of means a lot to me, and the reason it does mean a lot to me because if you guys remember, I had a 2006 Mustang GT. Obviously I didn't have a Shelby, but the Shelbys back then were just such a big deal when they first came out. They were so beautiful, and they had that, legend behind it. Because, Carroll Shelby and that whole legacy of just him alone, seeing this car come back was awesome. I mean, we hadn't really seen a really good Shelby car since Eleanor, so when this came back on the market, they weren't, believe it or not, they weren't selling that well until a little movie called I Am Legend came out. Now, I Am Legend, if you remember, it looked exactly like this in the very beginning of the movie, red with white stripes. Ford sales peaked to a pulp after that movie came out. And I'm not surprised because once people started driving these, it was a lot of fun. These Shelbys came with a 5.4 liter V8, come with an Eaton supercharger, and this one has a few things done to it. Has an upper pulley and a heat exchanger, an intake and exhaust. So it has some of the minor things you can do to it, but it really wakes up the car because like many Ford tunes from the factory, they're very conservative at the start. But once you really wake it up with the little things, it really helps. Do a little toot. It's quiet. And up, going around a bend, and the first impression I'm getting from this is that it's nose heavy. After being in the Coyote for so long, and you get a little bit more like of a lighter motor in the newer cars, it definitely is more reminiscent of the older days of Mustang. Older days being only not too long ago, but you get my picture. When it comes to driving, just cruising around, you'd think it'd be pretty hard to drive because it has that, the name Shelby and everything, and that it was the most expensive Mustang at the time. But it's very easy to drive. It's a 6-speed, unlike how the GTs were 5 speeds. This has muffler deletes on it, and there's literally no drone really to speak of. My 06 was like 2 subwoofers and it had a cab back on it. And this is just cruising around town. It's just a normal commuter car. So it's very dailyable. So when they said that they wanted to sell something really fast that was dailyable, they proved it right for sure. The only downside about having this much kind of power and this kind of motor, a supercharged V8, is the gas mileage is pretty rough when you get on it. Since you're pretty much always in boost with the supercharger, it makes sense. It's not so much like a turbo where it spools up and that's where your bad gas mileage comes in. But when you downshift and blip into it, you get that little supercharger whine, and it just makes you grin. And that is awesome. The power band is extremely controllable. Like, you'd think it'd be going all over the place as the supercharger kicks in so hard, but it's very smooth and linear. So when you see the red light going up, you're like, oh, I got this, and you just shift. The red line isn't as high as the newer Ford motors. It's in the 6,000 range, but by the time you're shifting, you're definitely moving. And thing gets awesome. It definitely pulls basically forever. When you're in your gear, it's got a 331 rear end. You have to remember, a lot of the newer cars have 355s and 373s, but with this, it just keeps going. You're like, is it time to shift yet? And you get that sensation, you get pushed back in the seat, and you're still pulling. And it's pretty cool. I like it a lot so far. Okay, so, the car is lowered, and I'm angling across this really awkward speed bump, but it's on Roush springs, but I think the springs were made for a 4.6 liter Mustang because it's lower than it would usually be. But I'm not arguing, I think it looks even better. The front of it has this kind of nice lowered stance, while the back has that rear end kind of raised, so it gives it that kind of, you know, muscle car, drag car kind of look to it. And, oh, there's that whine, and go. That whine is the best. This, believe it or not, this is the first supercharged car I've ever driven. I love turbochargers, but sometimes you have to give love to the classic supercharger whine that the Terminator Cobras and the Shelbys do. There's just something about it that makes it just a ear-to-ear grin. I can't really talk, that was just too fun. When comparing to the interior of the GT and the V6 Mustangs even of this era, most of the interior is the same. But this has the Shaker 1000 sound system in it, which in my opinion is the best sound system on the market that comes factory with something. It just sounds so good. People will be like, man, you're bumping, what do you got in there? It's just stock. And then at the same time, you have another Symphony, and it sounds great. And there's a few little things. You get the nice little Shelby emblem with the classic Cobra logo on it, and just the little things like that around the interior. You get the red interior with the black seats, and everything goes with each other. Okay, we got a really sharp bend up here, so let's just see how it does around it. Okay, brake. Oh, okay. It's got some understeer, just a little bit. Oh, wait. I want to thank Robert Stevens so much for letting me drive his Shelby GT500. He's a super cool guy. He understands that letting people drive this thing makes their day because it has that legacy and that just look behind it. And it was a great experience. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. Take it easy. Can it go around a cul-de-sac like the Smurf? David here with another vlog, but this time in a Shelby.